Taking a critical look at the gaming news of the week. This is Augmented Reality, presented by the Triple S League.
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to the Augmented Reality Podcast for July the 14th, 2018. My name is Asheninity, powered by a reasonable amount of pure hype, not from concentrate. And as always, I'm here with Cybsidian. How are you this morning, sir?
I'm good. It's been a long week, and there's not a ton of news out there. as far as things like that I want to hear about. Obviously, there's huge news in the Fortnite realm. There's big news in the in kind of like a handful of other areas.
There's always news, but it comes down to what are the big things that people are really interested in. Things like a little title coming up called Fallout 76. I don't know if anyone's heard of it, or Cyberpunk 2077. There's not much about these games this week, but. Anyway, if you're listening live...
we did learn that Mike Pondsmith has a crazy sense of humor and really likes to DM Cyberpunk 2020 games or pretty much any DM. He seems to love being a GM for pretty much any game there is. So. Like tabletop, and that's really good because like obviously that's his this is like bread and butter. That's why he's famous. So
that's what he does.
I watched.
He sat down with
IGN
the guys
thing.
from guys and ladies from IGN there, played a game of Cyberpunk 2020 with them, and apparently he likes to sadistically murder their characters. It's you should go check it out.
It's quite hilarious, but oh my goodness. Hello, Marley Gillingham. Is that a thing?
A thing?
No, I can't. Well, I was thinking that it's a movie reference, but I don't think that's. No, I think I'm crazy. My goodness, yeah. So.
Yeah. So good morning to everyone who's saying hi in the chat. At a loss, Megan, Marley Gillingham, welcome, and thank you so much for the sub. Notional, good to see you. And you're right, Megan. I mean, yeah, we already did know that Mike Pondsmith was a little bit crazy. I think you have to be to come up with, a really good fictional world like Cyberpunk. I think you probably do have to be a little bit crazy right off the bat.
Yeah, you kind of have to. You really have to live it, or not live it, but like it has to be like ingrained in your mind as a full thing, basically. Mm-hmm. And that's
But he does seem like a fun guy. And Marley is hungry. Well, sorry, we can't help you that. We just try to feed your mind here. So
yeah, which is going to be a little light today as far as like
it's going to be a more casual, casual.
We're gonna have a casual chat. So if you are interested or you have anything that you'd like to talk about, bring it up in the chat, 100%, because it's one of those drier times, and we don't want to bore you too much with like Fortnite stuff because Fortnite is an acquired taste. It's pretty good actually. There's a couple news pieces in regards to the general like battle royale thing. So the Paladins, what is it called again? The Paladins battle royale has not been picking up a ton of new players. They've been kind of sitting and has been dropping a little bit. So I'm not sure what's up with that or why people are kind of like steering clear of it. The new one that came out just the other day, what's it called? You
talking about the culling? The culling?
No. We're going to talk about that one too. But there's another battle royale kind of thing, and it certainly has picked up the players and the viewers. So that's going to be an interesting one to watch. Just it's more sci-fi But then, yeah, the Calling 2 came out, and my goodness. Now, we covered the Calling 1, and we even named it like, this is the MOSA. It's a new type of game. It seems to be doing pretty well. But in all honesty, it really didn't, for whatever reason, it didn't do well. Mm-hmm. And then they've released the Calling 2, which I understand them getting the short end of the stick and being quite unlucky, but what they did, I think, was they just basically re-released the Calling 1 with like a very, very small number of updates and said, hey, this is the second game. And they also did a kind of a weird like pre-order / bonuses giveaway, and it just tanked on release. It just tanked hard. Which is really sad, because the announcer system that they had in the game was brilliant. Was really, really brilliant. I like the fact that the announcer would call out who killed who with what weapon. So if you chucked a bow at someone and killed them with the bow, not firing an arrow with the bow, actually use the bow as either a melee weapon or a throwing weapon, and you managed to finish them off. The announcer had some pretty hilarious like comments as far as that goes, like so and so killed somebody with a bow, like not by firing an arrow, but with the bow. and it was really hilarious. It was really cool to have them do that kind of thing. And again, it's like it speaks to the genius behind the concept of like making the announcer worth it. And I really love that. I really loved in Knights of the Old Republic, the MMO, where the announcer for the Hut Ball would say a bunch of really funny, crazy things. And I always thought that was kind of cool. And I like
it
the
really
announcer
does
stuff,
add to the
but apparently nobody else does, because like this thing bombed so hard. So hard. And again, I think they're a victim of circumstance and RNG rather than making a poor game. They're not a big studio, so you can't expect them to pump out, a AAA title. They're a really tiny studio. They're not the biggest, and they're working with very, very limited resources. They didn't necessarily make a bad game, but they made maybe some bad decisions, and then they compounded that with just getting a very unlucky roll, I'd say, as far as it comes to like the fact that they just kind of bombed the it just kind of bombed quite hard, and that's sad to see, because again, it's like they're not bad people. I don't think they're bad. Very few developers are bad people. There are a handful of them that are horrendously terrible, but as far as like the developers themselves, they're not horrible people when they make a bad game. Sometimes they just made some really terrible decisions, like the what was that other game, that stupid arena game that they they thought would do really, really well, and then it just
Man, you're having trouble remembering game names this morning. That's
well,
unusual.
yeah, but it's game names that I don't care to remember, because they failed terribly.
Yeah.
It's the one from oh, god damn it. It's on the tip of my tongue, and I'm sure I'll remember it in like 30 minutes after the podcast. But yeah, it's these people aren't necessarily bad people. It's just they made some bad choices as far as like how to present the game to the public, and then that really didn't help them succeed. That really, really, really became a giant thorn in their side, and that kind of sucks, and it sucks to see that kind of happen.
Wait, Megan. Game devs aren't robots?
Yeah. Well, some of them can certainly feel like it, but others, not so much.
Also, Megan mentioned earlier Paladin's Realm Royale. Is that the game you were thinking of earlier? So that's like a Paladin's battle royale.
Yeah. It uses heroes and special abilities. So it's like you're not necessarily killing people with weapons. You are, but it's like you can also pick up like abilities like shields and a whole bunch of a whole whack of really awesome things that you can use in that game to kill other people with. But it's a lot of like abilities like speed and jumps and other kind of stuff like that. It feels more like you're playing a hero and you're not playing just a guy with a gun. And so that's kind of interesting. It's a new take on it, but it hasn't been increasing exponentially like Fortnite did, or even like PUBG. So they're hitting clearly there's some aspects to the battle royale genre that are hitting walls, and we kind of see that. We saw that with the MOBA games, the League of Legends, Dota 2 type games, right, where it's like the developers come out with the game, then somebody else comes out with a game and it usually does a little bit better, and then somebody else comes out with a game and it just like goes bonkers, and then everybody tries to mirror that and nobody gets success at all. And I mean, we've seen this with League of Legends clones. It's like there's very few League of Legends clones that have more than 10,000 players as a player base. Yet these studios, in some cases, like EA sunk, I'm trying to remember the one that they sunk. They sunk an absolutely ungodly amount of money into this one League of Legends clone, and then before it was even out of the gate, they canceled it because it just wasn't pulling any interest at all. So yeah, that happens, and it happens. Unfortunately,
that seems to be the risk with clones. Speaking just as an outsider looking in, it seems like most clones don't do well. Would that be an accurate statement? Like when game concept gets really popular and then a bunch of people try to copy it, occasionally you get a runaway success like Fortnite. Really somehow.
And Fortnite was a clone. Fortnite was definitely a clone. And did it ever surpass?
Right. Somehow they found the formula, and they already had a formula that was working really well in the Save the World mode. And then they took that and they sort of applied it to the Battle Royale as almost like an afterthought, and that's just taken off like crazy. So occasionally you get those runaway successes that are based on a previous idea, but it seems like most of them don't succeed. Is that just my perception, or is that?
Well, I mean, I guess it depends on how much you define. Like, was God of War a clone? Was it something that wasn't necessarily, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And so you think about that and you're like, maybe not. Like you did, like it's harder to figure that kind of stuff, because it's not a clone in the sense of like, it's cloning something that's new out. It's a clone as in like there were other God of War games. It's an adventure game. So we're not talking about like just general, like sticking with general genre types. It's like trying to hop onto the hype train. That's more like what I'm trying to.
Right, and that's what I'm talking about as well. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about as well.
Yeah, so we're not insinuating that everybody has to create a brand new concept. It's like when you're hopping on the hype train and you're desperately trying to create a like something or an anything. It's like what can you do? And
I think we were talking last week about Destiny clones and how were we talking about that with regard to Anthem?
Yeah,
how by the time the development cycle is finished on Anthem, nobody's playing Destiny clones anymore.
It's not even that people aren't playing Destiny clones. It's when they started on that project. By the time they're gonna have it out, Destiny 2 came out, failed, tried to recover, and failed again. It's like that's the time frame that you talk about in the stuff. And so sometimes you get really unlucky in the sense that Destiny really maybe was a one-off thing. There are other shooters out there. Warframe's done really, really well, but Warframe was technically the first in this kind of category, because Warframe's been out for a really long time, and it's undergone a lot of changes and a lot of evolution, and it's still undergoing massive amounts of evolution. And they've been getting better and better and better. I read another article this week where it's like, the Warframe's a new thing. It's like several years old. It's more than 6 years old. How is it a new thing?
A couple of good comments in the chat here.
And it was
Notional
Lawbreakers.
says,
That's the one I was thinking about from Cliffy B.
Lawbreakers. Okay.
Lawbreakers is this one where it's like, but I can identify where they screwed up there. Like I can identify a couple of key points where they screwed up there, and I'll quickly cover that. The key point that they screwed up there was they charged money for a title that you're going in against a massive competitor. You've got to bring in as many people as you can, and charging for it, doesn't matter if it was a small charge or not, was a terrible idea. The other terrible idea, and I've said this a couple times on the podcast before, is that you have to have really good character design. You have to have amazing character design. There is a character design where there is a group of people that will play a rough, like just absolutely hard-boiled criminal, with like just a terrible personality, and that there are a group of players that will play that. But when you make your entire game your entire game roster, that's your player types. It's just a whole bunch of like absolute pieces of garbage that you would never spend time with in the real world, if anybody was even remotely close to that. It's like, yeah, people are gonna go out of their way to cosplay or to collect fandom or to connect with that versus let's look at Overwatch. 14-year-old Korean girl, way more popular. Why? Because it's a 14-year-old Korean girl, for one, and secondly, it's like this character is like, it's part of a cuteness factor and a likability factor. You don't have very many 15, 18, 20-year-olds who are who would choose to spend some time around a hard-boiled criminal versus like spending time around Soldier 76 or any of the other interesting characters from the Overwatch world. It's like you can relate, you can enjoy, but when it comes to enjoying your time with a hardened criminal, it's like no.
No, if you're
Like,
gonna
why?
make your
Why?
if you're gonna make your character a villain, they've at least got to be likable. And
Yeah, and
they've got to be somebody, like a charming con man or something. A couple of good comments in the chat here. So Notional says, Fortnite works. PUBG was just broken with hackers. That gets tedious very, very fast. Agreed there completely. Genre copy sucks as it's already boring when the clones come out. Nobody cares about Destiny now. Yeah, that's true. Like, if it is a concept that's going to have a limited life cycle, then yeah, by the time, considering the time it takes to create a game, if you're copying something, unless you think it's going to be huge for the next 10, 20 years, is it really worth making a clone of the new thing, right? Like, is it really worth trying to jump on that hype train as opposed to coming up with what could be the next big thing, right? I'm not a game dev, but thinking just looking at it that way.
And At a Loss and Notional and Megan are commenting about Anthem, and that's where we're kind of at with Anthem. Like, the hype is slowly going down. They haven't really released very much about the story of the character. Does this mean that your character is going to have an amazing backstory, or are they going to be separate? Are they going to be unique, or are they going to be this? And I think I talked about this before. The worst thing you can do for a video game right now, and the thing that a lot of games fall into constantly, especially these online games, it's like, you're the hero. You're the only hero that we need. And this is why I quit playing WoW. In Cataclysm, there was this moment where you fly into this place and you're greeted by an NPC saying, "You're the hero. You're the only one who can do this. You have to help us. You're the key to this whole thing." And you're like, "Wow, I'm the key. I'm the key to the whole thing. This whole thing is riding on me. That's amazing." And then you hear this same NPC say that to the next 2,000 people that show up. And it's like, and it took a while for the game industry to realize, and still a lot of them do not realize this, that is the worst thing to do in a multiplayer game. It's so pandering, it's so silly, and it's so disgusting to people who actually appreciate, actual lore. There is a way where you can make somebody feel special when they're part of a big push, and that's what they've that's what WoW apparently has been doing in the last 2 expansions, which has been improving things greatly. Is that they've said that you're a part of the thing, that you're not carrying the weight of the whole thing, and that kind of representation is, they hit that in Destiny 2. Is that in Destiny 2 again, it's like, oh, you're the only hero except for the 4 million other people.
All those 20 people lined up behind you who are going to hear me say the same thing.
Yeah, and if BioWare does this and makes this whole story, oh, you're this special person and you're gonna uncover the secrets to everything, and you're the only one who can do this. But hey, get in a group with 4 other people because we really need you to take out this one thing, and you can't do it by yourself. Well, where are those other 4 people from? Oh, well, they're part of they have their own story where they're the center of the universe as well. It's like, when you're the center of the universe, there's nothing for you to strive towards. That's part of the problem. And then the other problem is that people get, like I said, if you're interested in lore, if you are a lore person, then that's just going to come across as just absolutely disgusting to you. You're going to be annoyed at the story. You're going to feel like somebody's
just pandering to you.
You're going to feel that you're being pandered to, and
you don't want your games to pander to you.
Now that's not the mass reaction to it, but that is a sizable reaction to it. And then, but that kind of conceptual thing does bleed over to why other people kind of dislike the game as much.
I kind of appreciate it when a game mocks you a bit. When I'm playing a game, if they bring in that comical edge, and we're going to talk about Star Control Origins in a bit here, but I do like how the comedy in that game, and playing the new beta, in the story, the role playing aspect of it, there was you could get some snarky responses from the people giving you directives, and that were kind of disparaging and funny, and I don't know, I appreciate that a little more than like a game being like, yeah, you're so great, you're the hero, we're all gonna bow down and worship you. As opposed to it's kind of nice when they're like, yeah, you could have done that better. Yeah, I guess I could have. So as far as Anthem goes, we've talked about this a little bit, so we won't go into this too much, because we've talked it to death on the podcast before. I agree with Saib that the hype is kind of going down. We are not really hyped for Anthem at all. Here, we're really frustrated with EA, because it seems like everything they touch just goes down the tubes. Even Saib and I were discussing Unravel 2, which is it's a fantastic little platformer game, and we were just discussing, why isn't it doing well? Why are
in general, and like, I feel if this game was released on Steam, you'd probably have like 100,000 people playing it.
That is a huge point. I don't know why I didn't even think of that. You're right. It's not on Steam.
Only,
yeah,
and you're forced to play it in Origin, and you're forced to install it in Origin. It's not going anywhere, and I feel bad for these studios who are making games that it's like, well, we're making this for EA, and unfortunately, because EA is a crap company, our game is going to essentially flop. Like,
it's unfortunate, and so hopefully it eventually gets moved over to Steam or something, because it's a fantastic little game. I love it. I cringe when I load it up and I see that EA logo on it, and then that could be why it's just not getting a lot of traction right now. I just thought of one of my favorite gaming moments ever, speaking of games disparaging you. Playing Wolfenstein: The New Order, there's this level where you're on a broken bridge, and you have to try and get across the other side while you're fighting Nazis. And I just fell off at one point, and as I'm on my way down, BJ says, "Stupid way to die." I laughed my ass off at that. I thought it was the most hilarious thing, because the game was just mocking me at that point.
Just insulting you.
It's like, yeah, I know.
You fail.
It was so funny. Um, yeah, I never thought about it in these terms before, but yeah, like the chosen one power fantasy. That's not what everybody's after. That's definitely not what I'm after when I'm playing a game. When I'm playing a game, I want to be immersed in the game, and that means
Yeah.
I there has to be some sense of believability in terms of, you know, what my abilities are as opposed to the villains and whatnot, and the people around me, in the game. So, anyway, that was a whole bunch of tangents. Wow, we haven't even started discussing what we originally planned to talk about. But that's fantastic. We love interacting with the chat. We love seeing everybody active in the discussion here. And if you have anything else you want to bring up to talk about today, like we said, it's been kind of a slow news week. So whatever you're interested in discussing, drop it in the chat there. And if you want to keep the conversation going after the live broadcast, we welcome you to join our Discord community. You can find the link in the description below. It's a place where you can chat with us, chat with other Triple S fans about all the things we love to talk about. You can meet people to game with, stay up to date about everything we're doing here at the Triple S League. So, yeah, click the link below to join, and make sure you say hi to us in the welcome channel. So, a couple of things we wanted to talk about today, one being Star Control Origins, and the other being a bit of an update about the loot box controversy. Why don't we tackle that quickly first?
Loot boxes are so dead.
Yeah, there's not a huge amount to talk about, but just an update on that whole story about some countries around the world taking a look at loot boxes and microtransactions and saying, wait a second, is this gambling? Are you guys gambling and trying to get away with it without paying taxes, or, you know, circumventing our laws? Because some countries have very strict laws about gambling, and if loot boxes fall under the legal definition, then they either need to be taxed or not, or just removed from the game. And it looks like Steam has basically shut down loot boxes in Counter-Strike Global Offensive in a couple of countries, Netherlands and Belgium. They've just switched them off. Players can no longer open loot boxes because under Belgium law, it was determined that basically loot boxes do constitute gambling under the law in Belgium. And even though the government has not taken action yet about, persecuting some of the game companies that have included loot boxes in their games, including Activision, Blizzard, and EA, and Valve. Valve has, it looks like, decided to preemptively disable loot boxes in Belgium to avoid prosecution under those laws. That's what it looks like. I haven't seen an official statement from the company on it, but they just up and decided to switch that off. And then in the Netherlands, it's a little more nuanced, but you know what? I won't go into all of the details on this. Basically, they decided to switch off loot boxes in the Netherlands and Belgium.
Yeah.
So, interesting. So, what do you think, Saib? Is this going to continue to increase and get worse?
It's definitely gonna get worse. Like, it's going to continually get worse and worse and worse for the loot box system, because once you start removing, and we're seeing it now, once you start the process, it only gets worse. Because when you start the process and you take 5%, 2%, 8% of your gaming population, and you remove them completely from being able to interact with that kind of a system, then it gets progressively worse. It's like a domino effect. It's like Joe can't participate in this, so Joe is friends with Mike. Mike can, but now they're like, oh man, this kind of sucks. Well, I guess maybe we should either find something else to do, or maybe Mike is going to spend less time participating in that functionality of the game. And then this creates this domino/snowball effect where this results in more people not doing this. And we've seen this before. We see this in MMOs are a great example of this. When an MMO goes free to play, sometimes they remove certain people or certain accounts, especially free accounts or basic accounts, from being able to access a particular thing. And this has, again, the snowball effect. They remove the basic accounts from being able to participate in PvP. So what happens is the day that choice is made, PvP drops by 50-80%, and then it progressively continues to drop more and more and more and more and more. Market interactions, when you have like a marketplace or an auction house or something like that, you remove the bulk of people from being able to buy or participate in that. Suddenly the market has this market correction where the price of objects and items either go through the roof or drop to basically nothing, and then it's slowly, as that starts to impact that more and more and more, it starts to have worse effects and worse effects, and then the worse the effects get, the more people remove themselves from that aspect of the game. And this is true in loot boxes. Eventually, when you start the process, you'll start to suffer more and more and more and more people walking out, denying the desire to even interact with the system, and it's just not good.
Right. So even though this is just in a couple of countries, you think it's going to have a worldwide impact on the player base?
It's going to start having it in any way, shape, or form. It's like, yeah, you might not see an immediate drop off of like 10, 20, or 30%. Maybe the Belgian markets only make up 0.8% of whoever's interacting with that, but you will have a drop off of like 1% or 0.9%. The drop off is never, ever, ever, ever that small.
Okay. All right. Well, let's talk about happier things now, and I want to start this next bit off with a question. If you look back at some of the classic IPs that were, that you enjoyed in prior years, if you could pick any classic gaming IP to basically reboot and give it a fresh start with modern technology, what would that be? Put your answers in the chat, and we'll discuss that a little bit. Saib, do you know what yours would be if you could reboot any IP?
If I could reboot any IP, it would probably be the Commander Keen.
Oh yeah.
Games. Yeah. I really want that rebooted. I want that rebooted, and I want it played with. I think that they could. There's a lot you could incorporate. I'm a huge fan of Foxtrot, the comic, the cartoon.
Yeah.
And Jason, the youngest character, always reminded me of what Commander Keen would be like in his normal day to day. It's this like super nerdy kid who plays video games and hangs out with his friends, and then these aliens come, and he's got this annoying sister and older brother, and it's like I always kind of felt like that would kind of be the world, but I really wanted to see and feel that kind of a story side of it. I wanted to know more about his family, and the fact that his mom is one of these twins from BJ is amazing. So, and
I think that's still theoretical, isn't it? We don't know that BJ didn't have any other kids, unless I've missed something. But
it could be BJ has a son, because it's never been fleshed out, as far as I know. It's never been 100% fleshed out. It's always been
just to fill everybody in. Commander Keen, if you remember the Commander Keen series of games, was made by ID Software, the same company that made the original Wolfenstein 3D, and it's actually official game lore that Commander Keen's full name is BJ Blazkowicz II. He's the grandson of BJ Blazkowicz, the protagonist of the Wolfenstein series. And so now, in the DLC for the new Colossus, the new Wolfenstein game, the story focuses around BJ's twin daughters, and so presumably one of those is the mother of Commander Keen. So it's kind of cool to think, yeah, Keen's mom is this this absolute badass, badass alternate universe warrior kind of a person, and then
But
settles down in the
I love that.
suburbs and has a has a child with an overactive imagination. I don't know. I find that hilarious.
No, it's nothing but great everything in this kind of world. Absolutely adore this kind of concept, and I feel that like wow, it's such an opportunity for the lore of all of those games to be kind of connected and start the MCU's pretty cool universe. So when you connect things, if you do it right, it gets better and it starts to get more fun, and you can start to play with things. Like, it'd be interesting if they had a
The
on the
ID
Mars
Software
world.
cinematic
Yeah,
universe, like Megan says here.
sometime. Well, no, sometime in the future of a Doom game, or maybe an expansion or whatever, and the Doom guy is on Mars. He finds he finds like this like wrecked ship that his father fought these aliens in, and it's like as a kid, his father like fought and took out these aliens.
That's
So,
true too. Yeah, because the Doom protagonist was also connected to the in-game universe somehow. Anyway, we've gone off on another wild tangent here. But,
yeah, sorry.
anyway, the reason I brought this up is because one of my favorite classic game IPs is being rebooted. That would be Star Control, and in the form of Star Control Origins, which is coming out in September. But I've had the opportunity this week to participate in the closed beta, which was really, really short, but I really liked what I saw with it. So they're rebooting this very classic IP in a way that it makes use of modern technology. Everything is more modern and takes advantage of they're not remaking it with pixel graphics. Let's put it that way. But they're remaking it with taking advantage of modern graphics cards and things like that. But at the same time, keeping really close to the feel of the original games, which I really like. I feel that they're treating the original IP with a lot of respect. It's being made by Stardock Games or Stardock Software. I can't remember what the company's actually called, but they're rebooting this IP. What I feel to be in a very real way. Now, I wasn't able to. I mean, the story beta was very short. Like the beta that included the actual campaign portion of the game, it was very short. But what I did play, I felt like I was playing Star Control 2 again, and that was just utterly fantastic. Now there's actually a second beta that's going on, which is an open beta that's available to anyone who pre-orders the game. Not recommending you necessarily run out and do that. But it's worth checking out. I'll be posting some videos this week of that. I'm not allowed to post videos of the closed beta, but the open beta, the fleet battles beta, it's called, which is basically just the ship battles component of it. I've really been enjoying it. It's a lot of fun, and I will be putting up some videos this week. So anyway, so Star Control, it's really neat to me that they are my donut spaceship sucked. Yes, it did. I was playing with the ship editor. Notional was in my live stream of it this past Monday, and my donut ship did suck because they've added like a ship editor. You can make your own spaceships in it now. In at least in the fleet battles, I don't know if they'll incorporate that into the campaign at all, but in fleet battles, you can make your own ships. You can upload them and share them, and some members of the community have been making some cool stuff already, like the Millennium Falcon or like the USS Enterprise. You can download those and play those ships in the fleet battles.
Awesome.
So I really like that, but it's going beyond that. You're going to be able to make your own story campaigns, set up your own universe, set up your own, basically, it sounds like you'll be able to build your own Star Control game using the editing tools that they have. I have no idea how that's going to work, but it sounds really awesome. So, Yeah, so it's looking really good. I don't want to get too hype about it because I mean, there's always a risk of overhyping something, and especially when you're a fan of a classic IP, there's kind of a risk of overhyping it when it's being rebooted. Star Wars. Sorry, got something caught in my throat there. But yeah,
Just a bit, huh?
so
Just a bit.
so yeah, I hope that I wasn't able to see if if how deep the story's going to go, how strategic the gameplay is going to go, and how many RPG elements are going to be included in the game. Like it's a strategy game that's supposedly going to have some RPG elements. So far, all I've seen really is that you're able to upgrade your ship as you go along. You start off with this starship from Earth, and you go off to explore the universe basically, and then you start to encounter alien races, and there's all these political things, and there's two major factions warring against each other, and so which is really along the lines of Star Control 2, which I absolutely love. And so you meet some aliens that you become allies with, and some that are enemies, and the combat is the 1v1 ship battles, just like the classic IP. So really, maybe it was a DLC I coughed up. That's possible. So, yeah, not suggesting that you necessarily rush out and pre-order it, but it's definitely something worth keeping an eye on. If you like strategy games that also have an action component to them, then I would recommend keeping an eye on it. It comes out in September, I believe September 20th. And it's got the whole... It reminds me of... In some ways, it reminds me of Jagged Alliance 2, and that whole concept where you have like an overworld where you can get a bird's eye view of the world and, move your units around, play strategically against your enemies. But you also get to zoom down to the level of the battlefield and actually control your units directly. And I really like that. I really like that. So, if you like that style of gameplay, it's definitely worth keeping an eye on. And also, I think if you're a fan of the classic IP, it's definitely worth keeping an eye on too, because you'll probably enjoy it. So that is...
I'm really excited for it. I think, I'm glad that it's coming out now. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, and actually, yeah, hopefully we can set up. We should have some battles side. We should have some fleet battles, make ships and trying to destroy each other.
That'd be great, but I wonder how you're going to do that when... See, I'm terrible at smack talk. So
yeah, I know you've already got the
doing
mind of a domineering starship, but I'll do my best. So that's about all I had to discuss with regards to that. Was there anything you wanted to add?
I really like how this has come back, and I hope that it does really, really well, because there's a lot of games out there that I want them to really stick with the original concept, like be really faithful to the original concept, the original control. Make the gameplay as similar as you can while adding new stuff that has evolved with the gameplay, but to still offer that same experience. Other things like that would be Darklands. I would absolutely kill for a proper Darklands reboot that's in the same vein. I don't want, I know that there's adventure games out there where you can walk around and kill stuff, but I want that, that you can go into the combat, but you resolve a lot of stuff through the text, through the talking back and forth. I want to see a new Darklands game. I want to see a really, really, and we have it in XCOM a little bit, but I would really, really love to see a properly redone Jagged Alliance game. That game's still one of my top 10 games of all time, and I spent so many hours in it, and I just want to have that same kind of thing. I don't want all this new sci-fi stuff or whatever. It's Give me like upgraded guns, sure, and whatever.
Yeah,
it doesn't
modernize
have to
it a little.
It doesn't
bit,
have to
but...
take place in the 80s or the 90s, kind of where they kind of aimed it from. I just want the experience to be unique and special, but be the Jagged Alliance that I enjoy. And they did do that reboot where they're like, oh, nobody likes. You can't make a modern game and have a turn-based and be successful. It's like, yeah, well, except XCOM has done 2 games and several expansions and DLCs, and they kind of proved you wrong. So
I don't think...
Again, it's a studio where they're not bad people. They just don't know their audience. They just don't know what goes into making a popular game, and they don't understand why people enjoy things that they enjoy. And then they try to make something different, and then you get a crap thing. It's the best I can put it. You get a crap thing.
All right. Well, I guess that about does it for us for this week. I want to thank everybody for supporting the show, for the great conversation in the chat. I want to thank especially our Patreon supporters, Old Man Manson and Jeranon, and our 2 anonymous supporters. Thank you so much. Don't forget to like and sub if you appreciate this weekly content, and if you're listening after the fact on SoundCloud, we thank you for your follows and likes. On iTunes, thank you for subscribing and reviewing our show, and hey, feel free to join us next Saturday, 8 a.m. Pacific Time or 11 a.m. Eastern Time for the live show, where you can interact with us and other listeners and be a part of the discussion. The Augmented Reality Podcast is a presentation of the Triple S League. Check out our YouTube channel for game guides, reviews, comedy, news updates, and tons more quality gaming content. Sorry that the show was so short this week. Unfortunately, just not a ton to discuss, but we'll be back next week, and look for lots of content coming this week. We've got a video planned, doing some tackling some of the big questions about big questions that are circulating about Fallout 76. So if you have any questions or concerns about Fallout 76 that you'd like us to dig into, feel free to message us on Discord or drop a comment below. My name is Ashtonity, and on behalf of Obsidian, thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.